My name is Manitya Kamalatmananda. I'm a Hindu monk from the Suri nations of Kailasa. This is not just a statement. This is a stand for truth, for justice, and for dignity of every individual and community that has been misrepresented by the media. Specifically, I'm addressing CNBC, whose recent article did not just misreport facts, it actively fueled hatred, misinformation, and religious persecutions. Many of us in Kailasa come from professional and academic backgrounds. I hold university degree in philosophy. My peers were doctors, engineers, professors. We renounced the world chosen a higher path, non-violent, and service-oriented life of a Hindu monk sannyas. Our inspiration, the Supreme Bhakti of Hinduism, SPH, His Divine Holiness, Nityananda Paramahansa, a globally recognized spiritual leader, whose humanitarian works uplifted millions over 100 countries. So when CNBC published a reckless article attempting to link SPH to agreement that was never part of, and used colonial field-driven language to smear a peaceful community, it became clear. This was never about the facts. It was about spinning a narrative. Now let's get the facts straight. The agreement you attempt to expose was legally signed between US-based Hindu humanitarian organizations and indigenous communities in Bolivia. It was executed in full compliance with Bolivian law number 465 and ILO Conventions 169, which protect the right of indigenous people to enter into cultural and diplomatic relations. The agreements with the indigenous Bolivian nations were signed by Hindu humanitarian organizations based in the United States, not SPH, not Kailasa, and not 20 volunteers who wrongly framed. The MOU was reviewed by the multiple legal experts, notarized and protocolized in full accordance with the legal standards. This was a lawful and respectful agreement between indigenous groups and the US-based Hindu organizations aiming for environmental conservations, empowerment, and cultural exchange to support indigenous community in a dignified, collaborative manner. So what exactly do you mean by calling me line graph? Not only is that accusation false, it is deeply offensive. You are effectively implying that the entire indigenous community lack the intelligence or agency to make decisions for themselves. That's not journalism. That's a colonial arrogance wrapped in modern media branding. Let's be absolutely clear. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has never visited Bolivia. He did not sign the agreement you referenced. Now let's address another disturbing distortions. You claiming that Bolivian authorities have arrested 20 elect representatives of the so-called United States of Kailasa on charges of land trafficking, accusing them of securing vast tracts of the Amazon rainforest through deceptive 1,000-year leases with indigenous groups. Here's an obvious question. If you were truly committing illegal acts, why were we subjected to illegal expulsions without facing any charges, without trial, and without even the basic protections of the due process? Let me remind you of what happened on March 21st, 2025 in Bolivia. Over 20 armed officers raided our peaceful residents, no warrant, no charges. 20 Hindu women and female Hindu monks, including elderly women, a pregnant woman, and minor, were illegally detained at the immigration office.
You don't have right. Bolivia immigration, violent human rights. You cannot touch us.
Hey, don't tell us.
Bolivia human. This is Bolivia immigration. Now this is Bolivia immigration.
They all held valid visa. They had committed no crime, and yet they were denied legal representation, stripped of their rights, and dumped at the Bolivia-Peru border in the dead of night, even though they had bordering passes and waiting to the airport to leave. CNBC didn't report that. You didn't ask questions. You didn't investigate the truth. You didn't challenge authorities. But if the facts didn't lead to any proven crime, why are you presenting us as criminals? Why are you branding indigenous agreements as fraudulent, Hindu spiritual leaders as fugitives, and Hindu monks as criminals without a single court of ruling shred of evidence? Meanwhile, CNBC article continues to falsely label Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as a fugitive. This is not just inaccurate, it's malicious. Here are the facts not mentioned. The U.S. Federal Court exonerated SPH and fined his accusers for over $500,000 USD. The Karnataka High Court ruled FPH arrest was illegal. In 2024, the Gujarat High Court confirmed there was no kidnapping, no abuse, and that the individuals lived voluntarily in the Hindu ecosystem. Interpol has rejected every request to issue notice against FPH due to no crime. Yet you still recycle the same debunked lies that have been thrown out of the courtrooms around the world for over a decade. FPH was driven out of the India after years of targeted political persecution, assassinations attempts, and relentless defamation campaigns. Calling FPH a fugitive after over 10 years of being proven innocent is not journalism, it's religious persecution. Khalsa is not so-called Hindu nation. Khalsa is a Hindu nation, a sovereign state under international law. We are not a fantasy, we are reality. But you can't seem to comprehend this. This is a fundamental right for us to exist, and this right is enshrined in various international bodies, including United Nations, ICCPR, International Covenant on the Civil and Political Rights, recognized by the 138 countries. Article 1 clearly states, all peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. There are several countries, like Palestine, Kosovo, or Tanzania, which exercise this right to self-determination, a fundamental human right. This is targeted demonization, and it contradicts everything these media institutions claim to stand for. CNBC reported the same anti-Hindu narrative despite legal rulings, documented evidence, and human rights violations happening under their nose. So I ask again, who is fighting anti-Hindu narrative? What political interests benefit from silencing indigenous voices and vilifying Hindu spiritual leaders? Why does CNBC think that it has authority to interfere in the lawful humanitarian work and in cultural diplomacy? You are not acting as a journalist. You are functioning as ideological provocateurs. And your reckless reporting puts real lives at risk. It emboldens hate, it fuels violence. It justifies persecution, especially against peaceful women like me, who choose Hindu monastic life of renunciations and service. Let me be absolutely clear. I will not stay silent. I will not allow your lies to define us. I will pursue legal actions for defamation, incitement of hate, and endangering our religious minority. I will personally take legal actions against CNBC for inciting Hindu genocide, for repeatedly publishing lies, and for delegitimizing our lawful efforts to establish a Hindu nation. I will request compensations for the harm caused by the false religious narrative. We are Khalsa. We are sovereign. We stand for non-violence, indigenous rights, and spiritual freedom. And we will keep standing, no matter how loud your headlines scream. CNBC, this is your moment to retract your life, apologize, and learn what responsible journalism looks like before you lose what little public trust used to.